Hey, it's Lebo here again with another restoration. This time it's Roadshow. It's another game for Pinball Garage. It's just about ready to go. I want to give you guys just an overview of everything that was done, and look for it soon, and enjoy the game when you get a chance to go to Pinball Garage to play it. Here we go. So here's what the game looked like right when we first got started. Notice how dark it is. You know, it's mostly because it's incandescent bulbs, but a lot of the lights are out. A lot of the GI lights are completely not working at all, and it just extends itself even into the back box. You'll notice here there's a bunch of lights that are not working out, so we knew we had a little bit of work to get into. So starting in the back box, you know, it got the usual treatment. The MPU board got all new capacitors. These electrolytic capacitors are just always known for being a problem, especially this one. The game, when we first started powering it up, it didn't take much at all to trip the 5-volt, overloading the 5-volt circuit. And when you there's a circuit that watches for that voltage level, and if it drops below, I think it's 4.6 volts or somewhere around there, it will force the whole game to reset. And replacing those capacitors was really the main fix for it. Also, just as a preventative measure, did replace this bridge rectifier, started to go replace some of the others, and actually just held off for now because I think it might have been a little bit overkill, but can definitely address those if that ever becomes an issue later. Also, as far as issues, transistors, there was one that was dead on this board that had to control, I think, one of the flashers. Might have been this top one, I can just tell by looking at it. And I think we also had another one down on the board, down on the MPU. Actually, that's not the MPU, that's the power driver board. The MPU is over here. It had an issue as well. Let's see if I can find where it is. It's a socket. Oh, it's underneath the battery board. So this game actually does have, I do still have batteries in it. I'm gonna switch those over to lithium batteries just to give it some longevity and less of an issue of there being a leaking issue. But I didn't swap it out because for this generation game, it's a little harder. I think it is, as far as swapping over to an NVRAM, so I just didn't want to risk it. So I do still have batteries, but the thing is on this game is that's on a separate board. Let's see if I can show it. It's actually elevated off of the main board. And so if it has issues, it doesn't end up leaking onto the actual MPU board. So that's actually some goodness there, but when switching over to lithium, we'll address that. But there was a chip that's underneath this that handles the switch matrix. It fried, and I think it might have just let go in the middle of working on the game. So that took a little while to find. It's a pretty common issue, as I've understood, but when I was testing things out earlier, it didn't seem to be an issue, but it actually was an issue. So kind of a lesson learned. A couple other things, this game, you know, it got LEDs all throughout, and I'll show those to you here in a second. But the board that you see over here on the left, that is the GI OCD LED board. And the one that's down here in the right, that is just your basic controlled Playfield lights, you know, like underneath your inserts and whatnot. That's the OCD LED board there. And again, with those two boards, they're upgrades to this game, but their job of what they do is they help smooth out the LEDs from flickering so much, which can happen on some games when you switch from incandescent bulbs over to LEDs. They look so much better, but when you add in those boards, it just really helps smooth it all out. This is part of that whole circuit to where it comes in and feeds the signals back to all those bulbs. Down on the speaker panel, this is the back side of the new color DMD that I got. And looking on the back of the light board, I didn't really have any issues there. I did have a bunch of lights that were not working, as you saw earlier in the video. And here's what I ended up with now. So they're all working. It all ended up being one of the connectors that is actually, it's one that's inside of this whole connector board now that I had to rebuild for controlling GI. That was the main culprit for all of the lights that were being out. Had a lot to do, sorry, I bumped the button. Had a lot to do with that connector. But I do have a mixture, as you'll see, of some cool whites and warm whites. And again, it's kind of an art thing. It's just what works with the artwork that's on the back box, or I'm sorry, on the translate. And so there you have it. Now you'll see some of them that some of them are frosted and some of them are clear lens, but yeah, that's basically it. So now let's move down to the playfield. Overall, it's actually in really good shape. There's really not a single bit of wear on any of the surface, but the game was just extremely filthy. Just a lot of dirt, and it just needed to be just gone through. So everything was torn down on the surface. Everything was cleaned up pretty nice. I'll put back together. As far as any other little upgrades, all of the bands are using silicone bands, so they act a lot like rubber, but they will last a lot longer. All of the lights are switched over to LEDs. It's mostly a warm white everywhere, except for certain colors. I do add, like, you know, in red, I put a red light there, and then like the spot here, I've put in a blue one. Over here at the radio, so that started out as just being a red piece of plastic, and I'll show a picture. Here's what it looks like before. That was before anything was done to it. And then of course now you can see after doing that paint job, here's what it looks like now. So just little things to kind of make it look a little nicer. The pop bumpers, they got those pop bumper lights that I like to use sometimes. Those are not the ring lights, they're just the main ones that light up the body and give some light right there in the center. Now, a really nerdy thing that I did, and for those of you that really know this game and know Roadshow, you'll probably be ones to actually notice this. Otherwise, you'll just think, I don't know, it just looks like it's how it's supposed to be. So these danger bridge out, notice that they've got those flashing red lights. That's normal, but what's different about it, these lights, they're different lights. The ones that were there originally were these little dim 5mm bulbs, and I had to actually source some that were bigger and a little brighter, and you have to unsolder the old lights off the boards that are behind here. But I did that because, from the player's perspective, when you're playing it, you just weren't really even noticing those lights when they were lighting up, and now they're a lot more noticeable. It's nothing that's like in your face, but again, like I said, it's just a nerdy thing that I did, that little tiny detail. These plastics, wow, when I started them out, they were dirty. Here's just a little segment of just showing you what it looks like before. Notice it's just, everything's just kind of dirty. They looked almost kind of greenish. And then now, after going through it, it definitely looks a lot better. Definitely gave it some clarity. By the way, they're actually yellow. They aren't really green. They have maybe a little bit of green tint, but they're mostly yellow. Okay, so now once I got them installed into the game, before I did that, I put a couple light strips underneath right where you would enter the ramp there and ramp there, and that way you could just actually see what's written there. Before there was just one single bulb, and now it's just the whole area is lit up a little more. I put in a light. If I drop it down here low, you'll see it. See, there's a whole light strip on the back. That's to kind of help light up that whole back area, just so when you shoot a ball back there, you can see what's going on a little more. This Bob's Souvenir bunker. Put a red bulb in there, just to kind of lighten it up. All of the signs that are here on the side, and then this one down here for the Start City event. Before, it just had a bulb that was just kind of hanging out there. I've put little flex bulbs to help shine back actually onto the sign, just to give it a little more clarity when you're playing the game. And that's really about it on the playfield, other than, I guess, a couple other minor things. So I've added in a light down here in the trough to kind of light up that area. And there's also even a light over here to light up the shooter lane, so that when you're playing this and the ball comes shooting out there and you know, hey, it's time to go, you see it. So that's basically it for the playfield. A couple other minor things. It did get a new coin door. Had kind of a crazy funky door on the front, and that's all brand new. And this game, for those, again, those that know Roadshow, this is one of the rare games where the legs are actually blue. This one didn't have any blue legs. They were just some standard legs, and I've had them powder coated. So they're blue now to match how the game is supposed to be. That is it in a nutshell, and I'm gonna do a real quick demo of playing the game. Okay, here we go.
Time to go to work. Let's fire that thing up. Hey, look there, taxi cabs.
You will remove that bulldozer from the street.
Right, extra ball. Oh.
Extra ball.
All right. So just taking a second here to talk about the game a little bit. Let me turn the volume down a little. So yeah, it is a fun game. There's 4 flippers total. They were all rebuilt. You know, I mentioned about the Titan silicone bands that are everywhere. Let me turn this down a little more. But yeah, as you're playing the game, you've got one of your skill shots. You're trying to get it down here in this little hole. If you were to shoot it and shoot straight up to Ted's mouth, or to the guard there, that's an objective as well. The faces were extremely filthy when we first started out, but they got a good scrub down, and actually had to repair. Some of the eyes were not moving. Some of the mechanisms just were not working right and had to be rebuilt. But really, all the mechanics are working perfect. You're going to want to get to Pinball Garage in a hurry and check it out. Hopefully it will be there very soon. This has been one that's been kind of hanging out here for a while, and it took me a little while to get started on it, but we have got it all completed. And I think it's standing tall, looking nice. So hopefully you guys will enjoy.